open the drink. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
How would this benefit the Cowboys if they had Zeke? Because last year, man, when we wasn't punching the ball in the end zone, everybody was super frustrated.
I got to remind you of some things, and I want you guys to keep this same energy, because I'm going to remind you of what the Cowboys organization has done for the last 30 years. Because
one morning, he had a rule that I had to make my bed before I go to the bathroom. Right? Before, that's the first thing you do in the morning. You go to the bathroom, you come back, you make your bed, and then my bed had to be made before I left to go to school, period. Okay? Uh-huh. But he made up some BS because I didn't make my bed before I went to the bathroom. We're not going. Wow. And I said to him, Dad, let's be honest. We weren't going anyway. And he was like, well, you never know. I'm like, no, I know.
You already knew.
I already knew. So I think it, for me, if I have the means, I'm going to go to a sporting event. And yes, I want Nick to have those memories.
Grass or turf?
Turf.
Indoor or outdoor?
Indoor.
TV or movie?
Movie.
Baseball or basketball?
Basketball.
Beef or chicken?
Ooh, I'm about to eat both. Steak. So beef. I go beef.
This is gonna tell your age. Tecmo Bowl or Madden?
Oh man, I love Tecmo Bowl. I grew up on Tecmo Bowl, Bo Jackson, but Madden, man, because Madden's NCAA is about to drop, but Madden, man, I've been raised on Madden. So
LeBron or Jordan?
Jordan, easily, man. So Jordan. So the name is Jordan Michael. So I'm named after Michael, born in '84. You know what I'm saying? There's no other GOAT when it comes to Michael, man. So
all right, this is a tough one as a Cowboy fan. Romo or Dak?
Dak.
How did you fall in love with the Cowboys, man, that made you become this Canadian Cowboys super fan? What happened, man, that made the Cowboys show up on your radar?
So I would say the NFL started getting really big in Canada probably NFL Network ad, hey? Once NFL Network came out,
yep.
You got that exposure, like a lot of exposure. We finally got to see stuff about the draft, and you had a channel that you could literally tune into NFL football all the time. At the same time, Adam and I had both started playing fantasy football. I had watched football occasionally before that, but I would say for me, diehard, as a fan, my first year actually watching football and picking a team was the year that Bledsoe got replaced by Tony Romo. And
my first thing, dude, that caught me off guard because I text all my guests, hey man, give me where you were born, blah blah blah, and when it said Santa Ana, California, it threw me off. I said, man, I thought this man was born and raised in Texas.
I knew I threw you for a loop there. That's the first thing I told the wifey. I said, I threw him for a loop. And she's like, you told him? I said, I told him I was born in Cali.
How about the Cowboys?
What's up, man? Welcome to Conversation with Chris. Man, I got a very, very special guest today. Sorry for the static. Y'all got some static on it. I'm sorry about that. I got a special guest, man. Y'all know him as PSG, the Philly Sports Guy. Jamie, what's up, man? How you doing?
How you doing, Chris? Good to talk to you, and thank you for having me on your show.
Jamie, I know we've been playing phone tag for a while, man. I know you so busy. When I say this man attend just every sporting event in Philadelphia and the surrounding areas, it's Jamie. And a lot of people don't know that's your real name. They only know you as PSG or Philly Sports Guy. We met, Jamie. We met in Las Vegas for the first time. And man, we hit it off, and I know everybody think that Cowboy fan and Eagle fans don't get along, but it's actually not true. I mean, we also we got close friends that's Cowboy fans and that's Eagle fans, and we do get along, other than when the game's on. But if the game's on, it's a different story. It's a different story as the game.
Hey, just because you got bad taste in football teams, don't make you a bad person.
Well, ditto, Jamie. Ditto. So, man, I've been wanting you on Conversation with Chris, man, because on Conversation with Chris is always to get to know the people behind their content creating, behind what you do. You are a super fan for the Eagles. You have a big following on TikTok and everything. You also do your own podcasting, also the NFC East show, and there was another show you do daily. What's the name of it?
Coast to Coast.
Coast to Coast. Okay, so you're a very busy man. And when I finally got you locked down, I was so excited because I was telling some other Eagle fans and friends. I say, look, man, this is not just a Cowboy conversation show. This is a show for everybody. So it's just this show tonight is going to be basically let's get to know Jamie and how he became Philly Sports Guy. So how about that? Can we roll with that?
Absolutely. It's not a secret. I've been I've been doing this for full time for 6 years. And it's what I do for a living now. So people
Right.
ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, what is it that you do on a daily basis?" I'm like, "This." They're like, "You paint your face?" Just about. It's I would say a lot of times I'm doing it maybe 4, 5, 6 days a week. When the Phillies are in town, I'm doing it nonstop. It's 7 days a week.
Right. So
So
let's start from the beginning. How we always. Where were you born, Jamie?
I was born in Philadelphia in 1972. I was born actually in Overbrook, which is probably better known for Wilt Chamberlain. He came out of Overbrook, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But ultimately, like around 3 or 4 years old, my mother decided to move with my grandmother into Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. So I lived, a pretty decent life. Like I said, my mother and my grandmother both worked at Veteran Stadium and the Spectrum.
Okay.
So throughout my entire life, I have been around sports. At 2 years old, when your mother works for at the Spectrum, and the Flyers and Sixers are playing, you don't know any better, so you know that she's working where the Flyers are playing. So I would watch the Flyers play, hoping I'd get to see her.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't know any better, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, Mom, I think I saw you today." She's like, "No, you didn't see me today." She's like, "Oh no, but I think I did." I'm like, "No, you didn't." And I'm either, but I literally became a Flyers fan and being a Flyer hockey fan during a time when the Flyers were great. Like thinking about that, like at 74, 75, as I'm becoming a fan, the Flyers are winning Stanley Cups.
Huh.
So it was, watching the excitement from everybody, watching everybody go crazy, watching the fights all the time and stuff like that happened in Philadelphia. It was something that kind of got ingrained in me in a very, very young age. Plus, sports were so much different back then. A couple of Flyers players that would be playing on the team would come over to over to my house with their kids. Me and the kids would play downstairs. My mother and my grandmother are playing pinochle for a nickel a point up on the kitchen table. Don't come upstairs. We ain't, stay downstairs. Stuff like that. But it's funny because sports now are so different.
Right.
And like you don't have the access to these players like there was before. Like even up until probably the year 2000, 2001, 9/11 really stopped all of that. But like
Yeah.
I would be able to go in and see the players. It wasn't a big deal
Right.
to run into them.
Right. So, what's your mom's name?
My mother's name was Kathleen.
What's Kathy? So your mom is deceased now, right?
Yeah, she'd passed on.
Okay. So it sounds like you and your mom Kathy had a great relationship. So was
I tell you, I will tell you, I love my mother to death,
uh-huh.
and I'm sure my mother would love me to death. And I think I won because unfortunately she passed on. Because it's funny. I'm a Libra. She was a Gemini, and
Uh-huh.
I was her firstborn. I came out 3 weeks late. I was 9 months colic. I was a pain in my mother's ass the entire time I was growing up. You know what I mean? And she learned how to be a parent with a very tough child.
So you started out being a pain in the ass, so you had no choice but be a Philly fan, basically.
Exactly. I grew into the part. You know what I mean? It was always there. You know what I mean?
So was she young when she had you? Was she in her 20s, a teen?
She was 22.
22. Okay. So she was fairly young, and you said you were her oldest. So you have siblings. How many siblings do you have?
Correct. So I have two younger brothers that are full brothers, and I
Okay.
have two older half brothers. One
Okay.
that's passed passed on at this point.
Okay. Are they as passionate as you are?
I'm sure they're as passionate as I am, maybe not about sports.
Okay.
My
Okay.
brother was very passionate about family. Like that was his thing, and he had an unfortunate accident, a bee sting. He had, died from a bee sting. So
Mhm.
it's he was very, very passionate about family. My other brother is, he's the older brother is not as sports related. He just does his thing.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
my one younger brother, it's not even rude to say that was the daughter my mother never got.
Hmm.
And then my baby brother is probably my best friend. He probably shares as much of the passion for sports as I do. He just doesn't show it the same way.
Okay. Does he know? Does he go to games with you, or you always solo? Because every time I
No,
see you, you're solo.
right now I am. Now I am.
Okay.
So actually, you could say that he was part of the very first time I ever got painted up. And
Hmm.
like the first 4 or 5 times, we would go to away games, and I would get painted up because I didn't do it at the home games because we had somebody who did it at the home games, and I didn't want to step on his toes.
Right. Right.
So I gave a certain respect level because I saw him on television.
Right.
And the look has evolved over the years. I mean, I remember the first time they ever showed me on television, I had like white hair, like a spray paint white hair. I had just gotten I had a military cut, so I had like spray painted that white and had green face. And we were down in Tampa, and it was the day that yeah, Bryant kicked the 63-yard field goal to beat us, but it
Hmm.
was like 120 degrees on the field.
Ooh.
And I remember being there at the 20-yard line, and they showed me and they said, "Look at the Eagles fans melting in the sun." And you could see the green paint dripping off of my face. So,
Yeah, it has evolved. All right. Well, let's talk about your high school years, brother. So, what high school did you attend in Philadelphia?
I actually went to Archmere and started there, which is a private school that the current president went to school. They went and graduated from.
Okay.
So yeah, there was a number of actually. I think that there's been a couple of presidents that went to Archmere, but right now our current president is a graduate of Archmere Academy, and his deceased son, who died of brain cancer, was my senior buddy.
Really?
So I got to meet Bo Biden, And I'll be honest, and I'm not a political guy, and if he didn't have the brain aneurysm or the tumor that he had, he'd be the president. He would absolutely be the president. There was no doubt in my mind. You want to talk about like guys who could light up a room even at such a young age. Like you knew that he was there, and I walk into places and you feel it. And that's that's not a learned process. You have to acquire that. Like that's something that you either have or you don't.
Right.
And I got to see it there firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
At ninth grade, going into a new school, private school, and ultimately I stayed there for 2 years. At the end of my sophomore year, I had a good friend of mine pass away in a car accident on the last day of school, and I didn't want to go back. And then I graduated from Ridley High School, which is where I went to elementary and middle school for and such like that. So I went back to the public school system.
So, is where you went to high school? Is it a suburb of Philadelphia?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I still live in the same suburb. I've lived in other places, but it's the same area. I live literally 5 minutes down the road from where I grew up.
Wow. So you stayed there. It's funny, man. When you go to a school or elementary in the same community, eventually people move away, and you may see them years later, or their parents or something may still live there, but it is rare that somebody is still in the same community from when they went to school. It is very rare.
Not in Delaware County, Pennsylvania.
Really?
I will tell you that when people ask if you're from Philadelphia and you say that you're from Delco, people understand that. Anybody like and Delco, Philadelphia is a great spot. I mean, obviously, I'm the Philly sports guy. I can't be the Delco sports guy. That doesn't make any sense. Right. But Delaware County people know, like people in Philadelphia know, like, oh, where are you living at? I'm from Delco. Oh, that makes sense. So it's just one of those things. Wooder came from Delco, and then it permeated through the rest of Philadelphia. Same thing with Jeet. When you ask Jeet, that's did you eat? One word, Jeet. So,
what's up, Armando? Say the hated PSG. Hey, yeah. So
he's just jealous. He's just jealous because when I tuck in my jersey, I look much better than he does. I knew that's coming later. I know it's coming later. I'm jumping the gun.
We are not. We're not talking about the tuck rule today. we're just talking about Jamie today. That is funny. So Jamie, in high school, did you play any sports?
So I did. I played some football, and I was really working a lot of the time. I got a job at 14 years old working at the Spectrum with my mother. So I played some football and then kind of stopped. I played some soccer and then I kind of stopped because I wanted to be at the arena because my mother was the shop steward in a very union town and she was a union waitress. So I got to be a union busboy at 14 years old, making $7.50 an hour plus tips in the late 80s. Well, that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Because I think late 80s. I think minimum wage was like $3.25, maybe $3.25, and you were making $7.
I remember $4.50.
Okay,
$4.50 was what I remember, and I was making $7.50 an hour plus tips.
Oh, you were rich.
I especially at 14, 15 years old. So I was doing that to pay my way through public school or private school because it was $5,000 a year then.
Right.
To kind of do that. So it was kind of offsetting some of that money. And then I was going to save up for a car, but my senior year, I knew that on my senior year, I was going to go right into the Navy. I wasn't going to go to college. So I decided to save up my money, and I went, backpacking through Europe from between my junior and senior year. And because I raised that much money, I saved that much money. So,
Man, you okay? You got to tell us about this. When we have conversations with our guests, it's always something that triggers me, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know." You said as a teenager you went backpacking through Europe.
Yes.
Did you do that solo or with friends?
Well, no, it was with the group. It was with the group. It was the people to people student ambassador program. You know what I mean? So it's not like, no, I'm not going backpacking through Europe. I probably wouldn't have made it out. But I mean, even back then, it still would have been a little crazy. But so I went with 38 people, 20 people from the Philadelphia area, and 18 people from Missouri. And we combined groups. I went to Ireland, England, Holland, Belgium, France, West Germany, and East Germany. And we went through Checkpoint Charlie. We were like one of the last groups to go through Checkpoint Charlie because 3 months later or 5 months later, it was coming down. The wall was coming down.
You gotta be kidding, bro! Dude, that's a great memory. For to actually to experience that as a teenager. Number one, to go through that where it's communist on one side and the other side you got a free society, but it's like literally a wall separating people, and people forget about that.
And it's like, imagine being in, and I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, but imagine being in like Disney, and you have all the color and it's all great over on this side, and then you go over to the other side of the wall and it's all black and white.
Wow.
Like you have all this color, and then every building was like gunmetal gray.
Right.
It was just drab. It was just not the same. It's amazing how a mile of difference. And it was such a weirdo situation. One of the teachers on the trip had a newspaper from West Germany, and we're going into East Germany. We're crossing over the wall. They come through us. They find this newspaper. They have us all come off of the bus.
Okay.
They set up this area and they burn the newspaper in front of us all. And then allow us to get back on the bus and go about what we were doing. But it was such an odd, unique moment that taught you, hey, listen, this is communism, and what you think might go ain't going here.
Were you afraid at any point?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't one of those situations where we thought like we were going to go to jail or anything like that. It was a tense moment, and I think that they wanted to try to show to us that this is a serious situation. This is not. You're not in Kansas now. Right. You know what I mean? You're over here, and this is how we do things. End of story.
Wow.
So,
hey man, that's something awesome to experience at that young age. Because my wife, she grew up in Germany. She was a military brat, and she told me about, for the first time they went to visit the concentration camps and everything, and she said the smell. She said to this day she can't get the smell out of her mind, and she said she thinks she cried the whole time, and just to experience something like that, I think it's something that somebody at least have to do once. And then being able to experience the backpacking through Europe. Hey, I've never been to Europe. And you went to several countries as a teenager, Yep. So I'm a little envious of that, brother. I am a little envious of that. So after high school, did you attend college or did you just work immediately?
So I spent my 18th birthday in boot camp. I was in Navy boot camp.
Okay.
And I spent 3 years in the military. I was on the USS Portland. I was an electrician on the ship, and it was the ship was an LSD. So I always say it was a tripping good ship. But my ship was made to sink, and we were an amphibious ship. So what
Okay.
that meant was that we transported Marines to 500 yards off the coast, and then
Okay.
the ducks would take them on. The ships that got the closest to Normandy were LSDs.
Okay.
So, and then you would have the ducks that actually hit the beaches. That it was those types. Now there's submersible tanks or they're hovercrafts, things like that do that now. So, but
So,
that was what the type of ship I had.
So was that your plan all along, was to go into the military after high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no thought about that. As funny as it sounds, I remember watching the movie An Officer and a Gentleman. And it was kind of at that moment that I said I want to join the Navy. It's like, and then you remember all the commercials from back then. Join the Navy, see the world. You know what I mean? It's like it was all right. I want to see the world. I just went backpacking through Europe. It's going to be great. I'm going to get to go do this. And then Desert Storm hits, and you have a certain level of pride that you're like, okay, now I'm going over there. Like I remember them throwing a party for me my last day of work at the Spectrum.
Okay.
And some of the Flyers players coming, some of the Sixers players coming just to come kind of see me off. It was my last day at work before I went to boot camp as a 17-year-old kid.
Wow.
During the time when this is now Desert Storm. It's like, okay, but Iraq just invaded Bahrain, and we were going there to protect them and stuff like that. So ultimately, I spent a lot of time 500 yards off the coast of Bahrain.
So where did you do boot camp?
Orlando.
For so now that heat is something different. Did you go in the middle of the summer?
Late August. So
Yeah.
yes,
Oh my God.
It sucked. It was hot. It was hot.
I bet you were about to die.
Well, I was much different back then. I was like just about 6 foot tall, maybe 150, 160 pounds, soaking wet. But I was a lot more active. You know what I mean? I could do the 60 push-ups. I could do 120 sit-ups in 2 minutes time. Like I was in much better shape than I am now at 51.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
So,
Yeah.
but it was hot though. It was very, very hot.
So the time you did spend in the Navy, did you enjoy it, or were you just itching to get out of it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I will tell you that if you are a free thinker, that the military is not the place for you. And that was always my problem, is that I would question authority, not meaning to necessarily question the authority, but I would question why. And you can't question why when you're in the military. There isn't the time to have those conversations. The problem is that there is time to have those conversations. They just don't want to have them because the people that you're talking to don't know the answers either. These are the monkeys in the room, like that. Hey, that they go up to try to get the banana and they get sprayed with water. After a while, all the monkeys that were originally there, you got 5 new monkeys in the room and now they're getting sprayed with water. And it was always done that way. And that's kind of how it was in the military. And I always questioned that. And so ultimately I was a great worker, a bad sailor, as they would say.
So basically orders was orders. So they like, hey, Jamie, these are the orders. This is what we got to do. And Jamie had a comeback. He's like,
well,
why?
no, I'd be like, why? Well, why can't we do it this way? Why can't we do it this way? Like, and you can't ask those questions. There's like, especially in a wartime, not that the war was a big conflict, and it was different. Like as I was 18 years old, just getting on the ship, to the time I was 20 years old, about to get off the ship, I had a lot of questions at that point on why they did things a certain way.
Right.
And, unfortunately, they didn't want to hear it.
Didn't want to hear it. So after you got out the military, what was your next step? What did you do after you got out the military?
I tried to do college. And I went to Wilkes University for a little while. was doing, did pretty well, but just didn't really care for it. I needed more interaction and such like that. Went to community college for a little while, got myself my associates in hotel restaurant management, and went back out into the workforce. It was like, okay, time to go to work. I need to make some money. You know what I mean?
Where is Wilkes? Where is Wilkes University?
Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So up closer to the Poconos in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay, the Poconos. All right, so up in the mountains.
Correct.
Up in the mountains. Okay, so you got in the workforce. So did you go into the hotel management as in your degree that you were looking for?
I did. I started off. So I went back to work at the Spectrum, and I was doing the backstage catering. So I would set up the dressing rooms of a bunch of different acts that would come in and things like that. Got to meet some very unique people because of the position that I held. But although it sounds very glamorous, you are like a concierge to a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That are used to getting, that have that silver spoon already. So you have to go and get unique things that, I never really what is that for me to be able to go find even? I don't even know how to go get some of that stuff. And so, but you learn and you do that. And then I left there and became a manager. I went to a Bennigan's and became manager there. Went to a Sizzler, became manager there. Went to the Chart House, became manager there. And then the Chart House was robbed, and they had the three guys that came in with sawed off shotguns, and they taped up the managers, and they put a gun to your head, and that changes the way you look at a lot of different things.
Yeah. Everything changes then. You're like, do I really want to do this job? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't stick around much longer after that. In fact, I will tell you, I was engaged at the time, and that happened, and I did the three things. I quit my job, I quit the fiance, and I moved out of the state. I'm like, it's time for me to go. I'm out. See ya.
So that's the perfect segue. You said you were engaged. Okay. So were you ever married?
No.
You didn't get married, but you were engaged.
I've been engaged. I've been engaged twice in my life.
Been engaged twice. Okay. Now, any children?
I have two children.
Two kids. Okay. Boy, girl, one of each.
One of each. They call it a rich man's family because you need to be a rich man to buy all the freaking clothes.
So how old are the kiddos?
15 and 14.
15 and 14. Okay. So they're in high school. Okay.
One's in high school. One's about to go into high school.
About to go. Okay. So luckily my experience with that is over. My kids are 32 and 30. Okay. So I got the grandkids. So how is it dealing? How do the kids accept Philly Sports Guy? Are they accepting? Or are they like, oh, is dad embarrassing me? How are they with Philly Sports Guy in their life?
I will, speaking for the girl, I think that at 14 years old, they don't want to have anything to do with their parents. So it doesn't matter what it is that I do. Right. My son, however, I think he enjoys the fact that his father is well known. Mm-hmm. Obviously, my biggest base is kids. Mm-hmm. So everybody in his class knows me.
Okay.
And because of that, I feel like he gets some street cred. You know what I mean? He's not somebody who's into sports. He's not somebody who is as social as I am. That being said, they know that I'm his dad, and because of that, he gets, a little bit better treatment, maybe. I can't really say one way or another. Somebody who is like an advocate for anti-bullying, I can't say that my son gets bullied very often. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that has maybe a little bit to do with me.
Yeah, as kids, especially when it comes to fandom of sports, sometimes it takes kids a while to mature into it. with me, it was instant because I loved sports. All right, I played sports. So anytime the dad had the Cowboys on, the Rangers on, the Mavericks wasn't here yet. I was like locked in. And as a kid, you know my favorite basketball team was? It was the Sixers. I was the biggest Dr. J fan in the world.
Yep.
I was just like, that's why I don't hate the Sixers to this day, because I loved Dr. J. He was my man, and I had the privilege of meeting him last summer. And Jamie, I know you meet a lot of celebrities. This was the first time in my life, in my 55 years of life, I was starstruck because he was a childhood idol. You know, when you meet people nowadays, hey, it's just another human, you know, but when you grew up loving somebody, just idolizing, and when I met him, I was just like, I was trying not to be that fanboy, you know, oh, Dr. J, you know. Hey, you should have saw me, Jamie. You know, I'm not a timid guy. I'm a big guy, you know. Mr. Irving. I was so polite and everything. And man, I got my picture taken with him. And I didn't frame it. I said, I'm not going to be that much of a fanboy, but I was just like, man, just meeting him. So I'm sure you met him a million times. So in Philadelphia, growing up, who was your favorite athlete? Not just for the Eagles or the Sixers or Fly. Who was your favorite athlete in Philly when you were growing up?
The one that I watched and was in awe of probably more than anything else was Rick McLeish.
Okay.
I still wear number 19 when I play sports. I wear number 19 because of him. And he could do things with a hockey puck and a hockey stick that I've never been able to see before. Never been able to see again. Even he was somebody who, and he wasn't the greatest player. He wasn't like one of the bullies where he was fighting all the time or anything like that. He just knew how to put the puck in the net, and he made it look so effortless. And one of my favorite goals of his was against the Flyers when he got traded to Hartford, and I watched him win a faceoff, and the guy he got it back to the point, and the guy shot it from the point. He jumped up over the puck, hit the puck with his stick, and underneath his legs, and it went past the goalie, and it was scored against us, against the Flyers. But that was like the first time that I was so excited for somebody who wasn't a Philadelphia guy, anymore, at least at that point, because he came back to Philadelphia afterwards. He retired as a Flyer, but it was, just one of those things where I remember that more than anything else, that he did. And it was probably because it was against us.
Wow. So I want to get into this, man. I mean, I think this is what everybody's been waiting for. Okay. I always ask super fans how they became the super fan. I mean, you know Miguel, Super Cowboy. You know his brother Super Ram. You know True Blue. You know all these other super fans. You guys get to go in the inner circle at the draft and everything like that. How did Jamie become PSG?
So I had been getting painted up for Eagles games for, like I said, for about 20 plus years, but I wouldn't do it at home because I was giving respect to the other guy who was doing it. And I found out he wasn't going to a playoff game down in New Orleans. And I'm like, I'm going all out. I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to go get in the first row, and I'm going to be nuts. It's going to be great. I spent $750 for the ticket to be in the front row for the Eagles versus the Saints playoff game in 2019. Now, they had won the Super Bowl the last year, and we were going up against the Saints. It's the one that Alshon Jeffrey missed the ball. Everybody remembers they ended that game. I went, I'm like, oh, he's not going to be here. I'm getting shoulder pads. Go over, and I go to Play It Again Sports. I spend $80 on a pair of shoulder pads. I didn't realize that they were even that expensive at that point. and a pair of football pants that
Okay.
were just plain white that I had to paint the green stripe on the side. Literally, I taped it and spray painted the green paint on the side with like a color, like a clothing color dye.
Right.
And I go down there and I'm at the game 3 hours early
Okay.
because I don't know if they're going to let me in with the shoulder pads. I've never done this before. So
Right.
I'm at the game 3 hours early. They let me into the stadium. And I'm in my seat. And for the 3 hours before game time, I'm going nuts. I am like you see me all the time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am that guy with nobody in the stadium.
Right.
Nobody in the stadium. One of the guys that came up, John Clark, who is a Philadelphia sports reporter, starts taking a video, and I do my Eagles chant, and he's like, come on. And I'm like, this is our house. This is our house today. We got this game. Go Birds. And Barstool Sports took that video and put it out there, and they said, this is the most sophisticated man in Philadelphia. Later in that, so during the game, I'm doing fourth down, I just calling fourth down. And the way that the photographer took the picture, it looked like I was elbowing a Saints fan just because of the way he kind of looked and stuff like that. Not Barstool Sports, Bleacher Report puts that out there. And I remember the guy turning to me and goes, hey, man, we're famous. It's on Bleacher Report, and it's already got like 300,000 views. I was like, oh, okay, awesome. Right. Later that day, after the game, we lose the game. Kid comes up to me and goes, man, you're viral. Like, what does that mean? I have no idea what does that mean? He's like, man, you got all these views on Barstool Sports of your video. It's like, oh, okay, awesome. And then a production company reached out to me and said, we'd like for you to do a commercial for a charity. Okay. And I'm like, do a commercial? Awesome. Here I go. Let's go do it. And I go do the commercial, and I'm all excited doing my thing. And they're like, man, your energy is amazing. You're like the Philly Sports Guy. You should see if that name's available. And it was. And they said, hey, listen, if you want to do this, we'll teach you how to do it. We'll teach you how to do the social media and everything. And, it's like I had my own business, and it was about to close because I was losing my guys. I was, I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't mind giving it a shot. My mother, who was on her deathbed at the time, she had COPD and emphysema from years and years and years of smoking. And as I told you, my mother's and I's relationship was a little contentious. And we're talking, and we're kind of talking it out. Like, hey, listen, there's always going to be regret when you're in your deathbed. Like, hey, I could have done this better. I should have done this better. And she was doing a little bit of that. And she's like, she got to see me for the first time on television at that game. And she's like, you're not too famous now to talk to your mom, are you? I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not. I'm not too famous. And then she's like, if this is something that you want to do, go do it. We're only above the grass for so long, and all these jobs I had, I was miserable half the time. And, maybe I took it out on you a little too much in the process of this. If you enjoy this and this is what you think, do this. I think it might be worthwhile. And then she turns to me and she goes, I remember when you were 10 years old, you asking me, why don't people get painted up for other sporting events? Why do they only get painted up for football? And I tell her, I'm like, well, what did you say? She goes, how the hell am I supposed to know? Go outside and play. You know what I mean? It's what but it kind of resonated to me that it was like, maybe this is what I was supposed to be all along. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going. And, it sucked.
But the name fits you perfectly because you don't just represent the Eagles. You represent the Phillies. You represent the Flyers, the Union. What was the lacrosse team? I forget their name.
The Wings.
The Wings. I've seen you dressed up for them, and I was just like, look, It's perfect for him. And then when they gave you the initials, the PSG, when everybody call you PSG now, I say I know you made it now when you get the PSG. you know, I said, and when we first met, I thought this is my honest opinion. I said, man, he's probably gonna be full of himself. You know, he's probably gonna be that obnoxious East Coast guy. I'm not gonna like him. I already know. When we met in I believe, what was it? The Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas.
Yep.
That's where we met, in the Hard Rock. I say, this guy is cool. He's cool. I mean, we sat there, talked at breakfast and everything, and everything that I thought of, and that's the same draft I met Birdman, you know, and I was like, I'd never met Eagle fans that I actually liked. I enjoyed talking to, you know, and I was like, I sat there and I talked to you and everything, and then I felt the passion that you had for your team, and I was like, well, that's the passion I have for the Cowboys. I just don't get dressed up for it, but it's fun when you meet other fans that have that same passion. But dude, you got the same passion for every sport in Philadelphia. Jamie, it gotta be exhausting, bro. When do you rest? When do you rest?
March. February and March. It sounds hysterical, but it's really the case, unfortunately, because I make jokes all the time, like saying, "Hey, Philly sports doesn't sleep, and neither do I." And it's really true because I don't
Right.
sleep a lot. I'm always up and about. I always like doing the things. Truth of the matter is I'm going to watch the games anyways.
Right.
So I would much rather be there, and it keeps me out of the bars. The same money I'm going to spend at the bar, I'm going to spend at the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Within reason, obviously, going to a Phillies game or a Flyers game or a Sixers game is much different than going to an Eagles game. Much more expensive. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
but I mean, and the
Now,
truth of the matter is that I am that guy with or without the makeup on. So
right.
the problem is that when I'm staring at a television and I'm yelling and screaming at the television and I don't have face paint on, I'm like, yo, shut up over there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like the face paint makes me tolerable.
Right. So I know you're involved with a lot of charities in the Philadelphia area. How many are you involved in, bro? Can you name them all?
No, I can't.
Is that many? Yeah.
So I'm not somebody who has a lot of money. You know what I mean? It costs a lot of money to do what I do, and
Right.
I invested into that portion of my career. But the one thing I do have is time, and I have created the ability to have this microphone that I get to speak out of when I speak.
Right.
So that's really much more important than any bit of money because I can go and I can inject energy into any situation. And it's one of those things that I've always had about me that made me me. It's like, hey, my mother would say, "Can you stop yelling?" I'm like, I'm not even yelling. I'm just talking. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm passionate. And when I'm passionate, I'm loud.
Right.
And that's part of anything. Like when you're passionate about raising money, like we just had an event yesterday for the Darren Dalton Foundation, and I'm walking around doing a raffle. I'm the one. I went out and I got a bobblehead, a Bryson Stott. I saw him when I was doing a commercial with him. I had him sign the box, and then I go around and I'm collecting $5 raffle tickets to do that, and we raised like $700 to raffle off this signed bobblehead that I knew was coming. Like I knew we were doing this. So, I'm doing a commercial with him on Monday. They're giving away his bobblehead on the previous Thursday. So, wow, I'm going to get the bobblehead. I'm going to go get it signed by him. And then we're going to, raffle this off. And it just happened to line up perfectly. And we raised some money for a great cause. And that's where my money comes from. I don't have the money to donate or to just give away because kids like sandwiches and I don't make a lot doing this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's those other thinking ahead and being 2 steps ahead of everybody that allows me to get and do good work with these charities.
Now, my next question, I know a lot of people want to know, are you the official mascot for the Eagles?
Well, first off, the word mascot's bad because mascots don't talk. I don't shut up. Secondly, I will tell everybody I am just a fan. I am
Okay.
not the biggest fan. I am not the best fan. I am just a fan like everybody else. I just wear different makeup.
Right.
And one of my Philly Sports Guy isms that I tell people all the time is that when you paint your face for a living, you better get the joke.
Yeah.
I get the joke. That's
Okay.
why I'm a humble guy. Listen, people are telling me I'm famous all the time, and I'm like, thanks. I mean, I don't believe it. You know what I mean? It's not something that I get behind because I'm just a guy who paints his face and yells at a phone. That's what I do for a living. I understand how certain people think that it's so much easier than that. That there's no work that goes involved with that. Hey, listen, it took me 6 years to become the overnight sensation that I've become. And I tell you, that's ahead of schedule because it should have taken 10. It would
Right.
take 10 years to do this. And I'm a little bit ahead of schedule because I'm good at what I do.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm watching the Eagles game and it's more for scouting purposes. But if I don't see Jamie, to me, it's not an official Eagle game. I'm like, the game is unofficial unless I see Jamie at least once. Okay. And then I know one time we were watching the game. My wife was with me and they showed you. I said, man, look at Jamie. He's hyped as usual. She say, you know him? I said, who's Jamie? She say, how do you know Jamie? I say, who don't know Jamie? I said, if you're an NFL fan, I say you may know him as Philly Sports Guy. I'm like, but if you actually a friend of his, you know him as Jamie. Okay. And she say, man, he goes all out. I said, baby, he's mild right now. It's the first quarter. Wait till the fourth quarter. I said,
Exactly.
He's getting warmed up. He's getting warmed up. And man, let's talk about the social media. Man, your social media page on TikTok, you have 281,000 followers. 281,000 followers. I'm one of them. I follow you. I've watched your lives where you doing your tutorial and you putting on your face paint. I don't say makeup, it's face paint. You war paint. You put on your war paint.
Yep.
And Jamie, the first time you did it, did you do it yourself or did somebody paint your face for you?
I've always done it myself.
Always.
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 Always. I and it's evolved. It's evolved over time. It's I remember my 40th birthday when the Mohawk came into play on my 40th birthday. We were down in New Orleans, and at 3:00 in the morning, I got my buddies. It's like I said, it's my 40th birthday. I've got the 3 guys that I travel with, one being my brother, 2 being some of my best friends. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? I said, why don't we go see if there's a bar that has clippers and see if they would give me a mohawk? Wouldn't you know, Coyote Ugly had clippers behind the bar? And I got my first mohawk down in New Orleans at Coyote Ugly. And that game, I painted myself like, I guess what would look like a green and white tiger.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what to do. So I made like this, and all into my ears and everything, back of my head, all this stuff, all painted up. The guy who's sitting in front of me at that game, who was a monster Saints fan, he is right now, he is the current Captain America, but Anthony Mackie.
Wow.
Anthony Mackie is sitting in front of me, and he comes in, and I guess those were his season tickets. I'm right behind him, and he starts to let everybody know around him because I got this one. This one's mine. I got him. And the Saints kicked our ass that game, and we
Uh-huh.
will come to crunk you all night long. We were hearing that, and we finally
Yeah.
scored a touchdown, and I got to sing the fight song, and it was so lame in comparison to "We will come to crunk you," and it was just so funny to kind of watch that and make that happen. But it was like it was such an amazing moment back then
Mhm.
that I was like, okay, I can't do this all the time. It just didn't quite work. Looked great, but it didn't quite work. Let's try something else. And
Right.
that's when I started with the eye patches,
Mhm.
and I was down. Oh, you're gonna love this one. The mother of my children is a Cowboys fan, and and
No wonder she couldn't take it. I knew it was something.
she I went to Houston that year, and the Eagles were playing on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And she's like, listen, if you take me to that Thanksgiving Day game in Dallas, you could go to any game you ever want to go to. And I'm like, bam, booked. Let's do it. So we
Okay.
go down there. I leave the kids at home, with my mother or something like that. And we go down there and we tear up the Cowboys like we crushed them really badly on that Thanksgiving Day. And I had a blast, had so much fun with all the Cowboys fans, but it was my first time down in Dallas. I didn't know any different. It was, but it was such a great event, and everybody was so nice during Thanksgiving. And I spent the time down there, and I've been down every year since then.
And it's a little different going to Texas than as a Eagle fan than it is a Cowboy fan going to Philadelphia. It's a little different. We were trying to make a plan to come to Philly as a group of Cowboy fans, and everybody was just thinking like, do we really want to go to Philly? We want to go and actually have fun, or do we want to go to fight? Is it that bad, Jamie? I mean, you're there because I know True Blue go every year. I never talked to him about it. But is it that bad? You see all the stories about Eagle fans and Cowboy fans in the parking lot. Is it that bad?
No, I don't think it's that bad. It's listen. There's a few things you should know when you come to Philly. Wear your thick skin, and the two rules I tell everybody: wear your thick skin, and if you don't engage an asshole, you don't have to become one.
Right.
And that's just real. And that's just real. And it's anywhere that you go. So,
Right.
obviously, you don't want to go and try to rile up a bunch of drunk guys that are having a tailgate. Obviously,
Right.
that's not a smart move to go do.
Right.
Does that mean that it's the worst thing in the world? Hey, listen, I was with True Blue, and one time somebody tried to come at him, and I jumped right in front. I'm like, no, you're not touching him. He's with me. And that diffuses most situations because
Right.
there's no chance that I'm letting anybody who's there with me get touched for any reason.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So, I always wanted to go to a game in Philadelphia. I've been to a game in Washington, what I call Cowboy East.
it's Philly South too.
They just let anybody take over their stadium. I'm just like, that just bothers me. But I'm not a Commander fan, so it really don't matter. But I always wanted to go to a game in Philly. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to go to a Philly game. I know the 302 Birds. They always invite me up and everything. Chris, come on and come to a Cowboy Eagle game. I said, but you got to remember, I'm a Cowboy fan. I'm not quiet. I'm like you, Jamie. When it comes to cheering for my team, I'm gonna cheer for my team. And they was
Absolutely.
he's like, Chris, everybody's not an asshole. Do it bothers you that your city got that stigma of being the asshole fans?
I have been fighting that since I started this brigade of going to these games. That was the one thing that I took on. That's part of the reason why I do not curse. I did and that's part of my Philly Sports Guy rules. I don't curse, I don't sit down, I don't shut up.
Right.
That I can be passionate, I can be loud, I can be nonstop, I can be and I've got a ton of different things that I could say to somebody this to get them thrown off their game, and try to do stuff like that where it can be funny without being F this and F that and stuff like that. I am very, really against that because there's
Right.
kids around. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I'm really, I don't see me drink at a game. I'm never drinking at a game because I feel like not only is it work, but there are too many eyes on me. The camera never stops on me. Whether
Right.
you see me during that game or not, the camera is always on me. And I'm never going to embarrass myself, my team, or my city ever.
Okay.
And that's really a big deal to me in a lot of ways. That's why when I go, that's why I'm so well accepted when I go to these away games and these away teams. When we lose the championship and I'm congratulating the other team and not blaming the ref or blaming something stupid or whatever. Hey, listen, we lost. I wish, some losses hurt more than others, but they
Right.
don't pay me enough to care to afterwards. And that's something that most Philadelphia fans don't have the ability to do. They wear their heart on their sleeve for their teams, and when their teams lose, they don't it affects them in a much stronger way than it does me. I am like, hey, listen, the sun's going to rise tomorrow, and you know what? God damn it, there's a game over there I got to go to. The Flyers are going to pick up the slack.
Right.
So and that's just kind of how I feel about it. And it's
Yeah.
worked for me, and it started to push a little bit of a better narrative, I think, about Philadelphia fans in general.
Yeah, because when you see the Philly fans outside the practice facilities with trash cans and talking about Bradbury and talking about other Eagle fans, and I was like, but that's a member of your team that you love, and you standing in front of his job telling how bad he is. I'm like, how is that productive? But another friend of mine, he was just basically like, look, you got to understand something about Philly fans. It's more like their family than their team. It's so embedded in their soul. And I was like, but we do that too in Texas. I mean, we love the Cowboys that passionate, but I'm not gonna stand it out in at the Star saying Zeke. I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
So is it just something, man, just inbred it? Is it something that the East Coast fan is just totally different from anybody else?
So I would say that the Philly fan is a little different. That you can, when I think about how could I do this if I was in any other city, could I do it in New York? No, I don't think so. Could I do it in Boston? Maybe. Boston might be a spot I could do it. Detroit's probably better. Cleveland's also a good spot like that. Dallas, you could almost get away with it. I think it just wouldn't fly as well there than it would like it does in Philly. I mean, I feel like that there's a piece of me that is the caricature of the Philadelphia fan. And that's what I think draws the fans closer to me. Because I'm not everybody's cup of tea. There are definitely a lot more people. Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who don't like what I do. They don't like the fact that I'm the face that they get to see. That everybody saw the face at the end of that Tampa game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, here it is. It's me going like this, just painted face, miserable because you just know it's not our day and that the season's over.
Right.
And it sucks, but it's okay. This is what it is. And my face showed exactly how everybody felt in Philadelphia.
Right.
So it's not everybody's happy about that.
Well, our last two subjects. Okay. Your all-time favorite NFL player.
Wow, all-time favorite. That's a tough one. I would say it'd have to be like Cunningham And if I went with a very, very, very close second, would be Brian Westbrook.
Brian Westbrook of Cunningham. Brian Westbrook of Cunningham. I think Cunningham changed the way African Americans at quarterback are perceived. And my brother-in-law is a diehard Eagle fan, and he said he became an Eagles fan because of Randall Cunningham. And I had to respect it because at the time, they were not really getting noticed. We knew there were good African American quarterbacks, but once the Eagles started Randall Cunningham and his athletic ability on the field changed everything. It changed everything. Is he still beloved in Philadelphia today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He could walk into any bar, and he's a pastor now, so I don't think he's walking into any bars. But he could probably walk into any bar and not have to buy a drink with anybody. He is still well beloved, and the truth of the matter is that there is probably the largest contingent of people in Philadelphia that feels that he's a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but I love that because you always have the number 12 on most of the time. That's the one we tease you about that's too long and you tuck. But we're not going to get on the tucking. It's just an inside joke. People, hey, that's just between me and Jamie, okay? Jamie, I always in my show, it's called, I got like 20 questions. It's called either or, okay? You just choose which one. It's really no explanation. It's just, hey, which one you prefer the best, okay? And then we'll end it the either or, and then we'll do final thoughts and everything like that, okay? All right. So first one, Jamie. 1st and 10 or 4th and inches?
1st and 10.
Man to man or zone?
Man to man.
Run or pass?
Run.
Offense or defense?
Defense.
Cheer for or be cheered?
Cheer for.
17-0 or championship?
Championship.
Ring or Hall of Fame?
Ring.
Play the game or coach the game?
Play.
Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Truck or car?
Truck.
Grass or turf?
Grass.
Indoors or outdoors?
Outdoor.
TV or movie?
Movie.
Baseball or basketball?
Baseball.
Beef or chicken?
Beef.
Tecmo Bowl or Madden?
Tecmo.
Jordan or Dr. J?
Oh, see, I went through that. That's not right. I got a true love for Dr. J. It was supposed to be Jordan or LeBron. I was definitely going to go Jordan, but now I got to go Dr. J.
Dr. J. See, I tricked it up. I got to add Philly to it, bro. I didn't need you scouting these questions, okay? All right. This is my other one. Is it Randall Cunningham or Jaworski?
Randall, although I love Jaworski still.
Okay. Buddy Ryan or Dick Vermeil?
Buddy.
Buddy over Vermeil. Really?
Yeah. And I love Vermeil too, and I love his wine. I've met him a few times. He's such a great guy. Buddy was such a character. He was such a character. If you're when you do what we do, to have those one-liners and things like that. Not that Dick Vermeil's not a bad guy, but he's just not as funny as Buddy was. Buddy had the one-liners that was just amazing.
Now, and my last and final question: Who has the best cheesesteak in Philly?
See, that's hard. I can't really say that. If I'm going to go with the strong answer there, I'm going to go Jim Steaks on South.
Jim's Steaks on
that's
South. Okay.
Yes, you do that, and then you take that cheesesteak and you go across the street to go to Lorenzo's and you grab one of their piece of pizzas that's as big as your face, and you wrap that around the cheesesteak, and you got yourself a Philly taco.
Okay. That's a Philly taco. Is a pizza wrap. You wrap the pizza around the cheesesteak.
A piece of pizza wrapped around the cheesesteak.
I have never heard that before in my life, Jamie.
Well, now you can't say that ever again.
So when I come to Philly, that's what I got to do. Basically, that's what I need to do.
Hey, listen, it was funny. We were talking about it earlier today, how these 3 guys from Toronto had come down to Philadelphia. They're like, what do you suggest we eat? I'm like, here's what you do. Get a cheesesteak from over here. Get a piece of pizza from over here. You wrap that pizza around the cheesesteak. You got a Philly taco. All 3 of them ate the Philly taco. They said it was the best thing they've ever had in their life.
Awesome. Well, Jamie, man, do you got any final thoughts for the people who are watching, man? Do you need to promote anything, any upcoming events or anything that you're going to be attending, anything like that? I know your Phillies are on fire. You know, you finally swept my Rangers. Eventually y'all were going to beat us, but hey, congratulations. But we still got that ring.
Took us 10 years to do that. Trust me. I know history. I paid attention. You know what I mean? I knew that they had beaten us like 14 games straight. I was real happy to get the sweep. Actually, the next thing that I'm doing is I'm going to be going over to London for the Phillies game against the Mets. It's like, and my final thoughts are like, hey, listen, I am so excited to win back the NFC East this year. It's going to be a lot of fun beating everybody around, and then us going. I'm only saying that we're going to go to the NFC Championship game, even though I know we're going to go further than that today. I'm just saying NFC Championship game, and it's going to be a great season in that regards.
Are you going to Brazil?
I am.
You are going to see. I wish the Cowboys was going. I was like, man, why they send the Eagles to Brazil? Because once a team goes to a country the first time, that's how they gain the fandom. Okay, I said the Eagles going to have 1 billion people, fans of the Eagles now, because they're going to Brazil. So, are you excited about that trip?
I am excited. I've been to Brazil before when I was in the Navy, so It's a little different this time around because obviously it's going to be more of a vacation. It's going to be very interesting to figure out what's happening with that stadium since they don't allow green in the stadium, and they got 2 teams that wear green, and one with green in their name. So it's going to be a challenge to figure out how that all is going to occur. But I'm excited for it.
They don't allow green, like the color green, inside the stadium, and they have 2 teams that wear green.
Well, the NFL didn't really think about that real hard, but what happens is that the stadium that we are playing in, their biggest rival, their color is green. Okay. So they don't allow anybody to wear green into that stadium. So
how is that going to work?
I don't know.
Both teams wear green.
I don't know.
So they're going to wear neutral colors, black and white?
I can't answer that question yet.
Wow. I'm glad you said that. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. People have been asking me, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to find out what the Eagles are doing, and then I'm going to mimic that and do the best I can. Because, everything I have is green.
Wow. Well, once again, Jamie, man, thank you for coming on to Conversation with Chris. I know your schedule, man, has been hectic, man, and you came on, and man, thank you for doing your buddy a solid, man. I really do appreciate it. As I always say, it's okay to be an Eagle fan, but it's better to be a Cowboy fan.
I don't think so. I just don't agree with that line of thought, but that's fine.
Hey, man, as I always say, man, Dallas Cowboys for life. And Jamie, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate you.
him if you got him.
And then crack him.
And then open the drink. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Crack him if you got him.